Welcome to the Greater Irvine Chamber Business Insights podcast series, where we address challenges and ideas for early stage and entrepreneurial business leaders. Your host today is Dave Coffaro, Interim President and CEO of the Greater Irvine Chamber.
Well, hello, folks, and welcome to the Greater Irvine Chamber Business Insight Podcast. I'm Dave Coffaro, and I am glad to have you with us today. No business can grow and can succeed unless it's known. And today, one essential element of having your business be well known is digital marketing. So today, I'm joined by a subject matter expert in the areas of digital marketing, search engine optimization, and artificial intelligence. And that is Roger Lloyd, the director of the Orange County and Inland Empire Small Business Development Center. Roger, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, and so the center that I run is as you said, it's the OCIE SBDC Marketing Center with focus on digital marketing and AI. And we're so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be here with you to talk about this topic. It's gonna be fun.
So before we get too deep into the topic, would you share a little bit about your background and kind of the role that you play at the SBDC?
Sure. So my background is an entrepreneur for many years. I started an AI consulting company back in 2015. I've had a couple of different franchise systems, and currently I'm the director of our digital marketing center, Orange County Inland Empire SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and our job in the ecosystem, if you will, where we fit in, is we are a fully funded program by our state and federal money, Cal OSBA and the SBA, and we help companies grow through one-on-one consulting. And that could include helping them with their marketing, access to capital, growth strategies, whatever, international, global trade, just mentioned that, government contracting in a variety of areas. And since it's already fully funded, one of the best parts about it is you get access to amazing consultants. We have over 120 just in Orange County Inland Empire. And because we're funded, the cost to the end user, the business owner, is nothing.
Amazing resource. So glad to have you with us. So let's start out, if you would, just explain what digital marketing encompasses and why it's so important for small businesses in their growth.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dave, and I've spoken about it. We've certainly done some interesting things at the chamber in terms of some trainings. Digital marketing, if you think about it, it's the ability to create your brand presence and drive traffic and leads to your business in an online world. I like to think of it as basically like an online store or office. You just you're just going to be talking to people in the online world, and there's a variety of ways to achieve that. And as we've seen progression, we all know this. Our mobile phones are the way that we communicate these days. It's become more imperative to have a stronger presence because that's where people are validating these days more than ever. And that was 10 years ago, but now, and with the advent of AI, to really circumvent, and also a concept that, Dave, you and I have maybe spoken in the past, but I don't know if a lot of people will ever pick up on it, which is nothing to do with digital marketing. It's the age in, age out concept. So as the generations are aging out, you've got new leadership at a younger age. The presence that you have online is so imperative to make sure that it's representing your brand properly. It's representing your communication. It's articulating with every word and every picture, ideally in a pristinely, if you will, so that somebody can potentially, decide to work with your organization versus another.
As you're saying that and think the generations aging in and aging out, one of the things that just sort of occurs to me, I was talking to someone with a med tech company here in Irvine, and he was talking about the old days when there were the yellow pages. And think about it, right? So today we're really fortunate we've got these tools, but if you flash back to way back when there was a book that was published once a year, it was this big, thick son of a gun, and it had an ad in it, and that was it. That was your marketing, unless you could afford a billboard or something else. So now we've got these great tools. There's another dimension of this, which is search engine optimization. I think a lot of people are familiar with SEO. It can kind of seem overwhelming to business owners, right? Trying to process, what is it? What does it mean? How do I deal with it? Would you sort of break it down into simple terms? And what does SEO really mean? And why does it matter to me as a business owner?
Yeah, Dave, thanks. It's interesting. And I always like to use analogies as a retailer. Um, so if we think of an office, like you had the beautiful office in Irvine. I love your office, by the way. It's so much fun. Um, and I hope if any of your listeners are out there, they should stop by your office and just say hi. Um,
Absolutely.
right. And you think of a retailer, a brick and mortar business, right? What I like to explain is SEO for sure, or search engine optimization. What we say is that's people that just organically find your presence online. Nobody's driving it but themselves. And so the way I look at it for a business owner that heard the term is not quite sure, it's like if I have a retail store and people see my sign, that is organic, right? They're just driving by and they're, oh, look at that nice business. And in the online world, it'd be the same thing. Like instead of looking at a sign, I'm typing in a search bar. And that's search engine optimization. That's how I like to look at it for anybody that's like, well, what does it really mean? Like, what's the value of it? I pay a lot to be on that street with that sign so people see, oh, there's a Starbucks. I know I don't need to like find it anywhere. It's just right there. I don't have to look in the old yellow pages, right, Dave? Or Dave's fitness studio as an example. And I see the sign, organic, right? I paid to be there, but I didn't pay for any advertising. I didn't pay for the yellow pages. They just found me. And that is what we would consider for the online world, the way people find you. Instead of a sign in front, it's a search where I search for something and you pop up and I say, oh, okay, that's where that is. That's the latest
So,
way to look at it.
okay, so just to take that a little further, is the optimization part of it that I am sort of directing that attention?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to this for a second. And again, if it's okay, I like to use an analogy of retail for our business owners. So when I pick my storefront, I look at the visibility, I look at the number of people that are driving by. I ask for if anybody's not from a pylon signage, which is the signage that's in the front with all like, you see the big sign, the little signs at the bottom, right? And all these things allow you to find my store. The better I do with it, the better that I make sure that people can see that. Online search optimization is the same thing. It is making sure that I'm using the proper terminology, what they would say is keyword strategy, which some people have heard of, making sure that my website represents those critical words that people are going to look up. For example, if I'm looking for trophies for an event, maybe I don't know it's Dave's Trophy Store. So I'm going to look up and say trophies, right? Whoever pops up first is going to be optimized the best. And that means they've done a great job of ranking, as we call it, be first in Google, be first online. That's what an example would be, Dave.
So I want to just keep carrying this metaphor because it's really resonating. The organic part of it, the way I hear you describing it, is really not organic. We're shaping the way that eyeballs are attracted to our business in the World Wide Web. Is that a right
That's
interpretation?
great interpretation. We can control that. Now, what we like to say, it's a slow bake, right? Because we're trying to capture people that don't know you in an online world. In my example, the analogy, there's maybe 50,000 cars driving by. In the online world, we've got everybody online. So you can imagine that the level of competition, but we can still control it. We can control that by making sure that everything's pristine using those keywords in the right areas in your website, in the right areas of your presence. And there are other tricks like making sure you're using video and you're using social media as well to kind of create this holistic view, just like your store. I have my store up, my sign up front. I use the pylon. Maybe I have sandwich boards, right? I'm using all this free messaging for my store, and the way I use it, people might see my store better. Maybe I have a sign walker up front, right? Maybe I'm the guy. I own my store. Same thing online. You can control it, Dave.
Love the metaphor. I'm going to just play it back one more time because the way I'm hearing it, organic is I've got my retail place. People just happen to randomly drive by. Search engine optimization is I do something to guide them down my street so they can see my sign and know about me.
Exactly right.
I got it.
You
I got
got
it,
it.
Roger. You taught me. Okay, so let's go a little bit further. a lot of our listeners serve local customers, right? So when I think about the World Wide Web, it's the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
But think about our many of our companies, they're serving local customers in our community. What are the key elements for local SEO and how can they help businesses sort of attract more customers in Irvine or in the greater Irvine area?
So, Dave, I got to say that is something that we spend a ton of time on at the SBDC with our clients is making sure that they're optimized. I love the idea now that we don't have to worry about this national exposure. Really, we're local. We're serving our community, and if we do it right, we're gonna do it very, very well. So the first thing is we have our listing sites, we call them. So what does that mean, right? For business owners to listen to this, well, Google Business Profile when you're on your phone and you look up or you look something up and it shows up, or Yelp or Nextdoor, or those are kind of the three main guys, mainly Google Business Profile and Yelp, right? Those are the ones that we really want to make sure are optimized. And so how does somebody optimize those local sites to get their traffic or to come to them, right? Without having to pay. We're still in organic, right? We're still in the free version. So the first thing is here are the misses that we see. And you guys, maybe somebody listens has seen this, right? The pictures that are on the Yelp site when it pops up or the Google Business Profile are not pristine. They don't look clear. You look at it and go, ugh. Reviews is the second thing. The reviews. And if we go back to my analogy, so now I've gone in the store. Dave, think about this for a second. I've gone into the store, right? And what happens when nobody welcomes me? We don't engage with our customer. You like, I don't know. It's kind of weird, right? So engagement and reviews, getting the reviews, and also always posting and responding a review, whether they're good or bad. It is an opportunity. And I think because this all it doesn't live in our face, we don't feel the same level of the need. But I'll give you an example. If I walk into if I'm at a restaurant and I'm eating a meal, and at the end of the meal, my whoever's serving me is going to say, how was the meal? What if I didn't respond? I just stared at them blankly. Isn't that kind of weird? Can you imagine? But because we're in this 3D world, we don't do that. But that's the same thing. So reviews is a simple one. Reply to everybody. And make sure when you reply, you never ever, one thing we'd say is, well, somebody might say, well, it's a negative review. I want to give them something for free. And then everybody's going to see it. You never do that online. You never say, oh, Dave, I'm sorry. Let me give you a free meal, because I don't know what really happened. But what I do want to do is say, Dave, I appreciate that you responded. I got to make sure that your visits are the best ever. Please reach out to me and I'm going to take care of you. Let's find out what happened and make sure it never happens again. And people, now the difference is, now we'll take it one step further. Unlike the restaurant or the brick and mortar, that only you and I know what's going on, right? Customer to person, the whole world is seeing, like everybody's seeing that interaction. And that makes a difference. So that's something that we see all the time, is people not leveraging that piece. So it's pictures, it's making sure the listings are properly done, and that you're responding to reviews. And then the third thing is, I tell people, mix up the pictures. Just because it's a listing site doesn't mean I can't change if I'm a restaurant, even if I'm a professional services. Nobody says I can't change my profile picture, right? So why wouldn't I? So so mixing it up, even though, so there's the opportunity. And the last thing is making sure that your material is up to speed. So for example, we're going up to Thanksgiving. I would love to see people make sure that they're closed for Thanksgiving. They update their hours and they're up to speed, right? All those things they're important. We see those misses, Dave. That's opportunity.
There's about 2 whole sessions worth of stuff that you just put out there. I want to distill some of it and make sure we're capturing it. The first thing that I got, these are my interpretations, so you can tell me if this is on. But when you see negative reviews, reviews are so important. I mean, I think for most of us as consumers, whatever we're consuming, whether we're buying insurance for our business or for our car or whatever, we read the reviews. If it's investing, if it's banking, if it's food, whatever. So part of what I heard is we have to fight our natural proclivity to defend. If I read a negative review, the first thing is to say, well, wait a second, hold on, maybe that person was wrong. Maybe they came on a bad day, or what, and defend. We can't do that. That was sort of one of the key messages I got from you. Another one that I got from that part of the discussion is we've got to be really clear in our business's go-to-market model, how we want to show up in the world before we start thinking about the digital marketing strategy, before we think about SEO and those things. Because if we don't have the go-to-market model tight, clear, and consistent, we're going to be marketing something that's not going to work very well.
Well said, Dave. So I want to go back one thing. Let's go back to the reviews for a second. I say we see about 30% to 50% people don't respond to the reviews that are negative. I would see 90% don't respond to the positive reviews. Interesting. Right. Yes. So I just want to go back to that and say, for anybody listening, just because it's a positive review, you should still say thank you. You should reply back to that person, appreciate that. That is a miss. Now, kind of going back to that discussion point going forward to the next round, what you just said was right on, Dave. Right on. Before you go online, for some reason, online kind of change. People think it changes. It doesn't. At the end of the day, Dave, it's still business, right? Who's your customer? Who's your critical customer? Who's your VIP customer? And know them and then talk to them online. Use the right words, use the right images, right? Like those, but because it's an online world, we don't think that way. So you said it perfectly. Go-to-market strategy is, what is my USP? And it can't be, oh, anybody can use my product or service. You know that, and I know that, but that doesn't work, right? Like it's okay it not only is okay, it's necessary to niche on the online world. Know your customer, know your USP. And then the next thing is, one thing that's really cool about the online world is the competition is out there to review what's going on. So let's take advantage of that. I'm not saying you go in a bad way, just everybody needs to know who their competition is.
Right.
So why not take advantage of that and know who your competitors are and how you differentiate?
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, we are competing, and the more we can understand what the strengths are of our competitors and where they have some shortcomings, that helps us capitalize. And we want all of our businesses to capitalize on every opportunity to be successful. What is USP?
Oh, thank you, Dave. Yeah, we use the acronyms, right? The unique selling proposition. So thank you for making sure that for your audience, they clarified. And, we've done this online um, competitive analysis for people for years. It's our own way. We've created the SBDC Marketing Center. And I got to say that the feedback that we have 10, I have 10 amazing colleagues and consultants. And just the OCIE Marketing Center. We have over 120 throughout the OCIE SBDC network. And I got to share with you, the Marketing Center, what we've seen and heard is this is one of the most valuable exercises that we've taken people through. When we go through this competitive analysis that includes their online presence. So it's the eyes surprise. And that's anybody from a startup to clients that are in the multi-millions, 3, 5 million, $10 million that are still surprised about the value. They just haven't done it they haven't done it the way that we've shown them how to do it.
I'm glad that you're touching on that, Roger. For any business, I think it's important to continually ask those questions. Who's our customer? What do they consider a value? What's our unique selling proposition or our value proposition? And what I like to add to that is, how is it going to change? So as we think about 2025, we're right at the beginning of the year. How's it going to look different over the next 12 months? Are our customers going to be different? Is what they value going to be different? Is what they'll pay for going to be different? And how will our competitors be different? Because just like we're sitting around the table talking about how we get the most out of SEO and our digital marketing, so are they. So how are we going to kind of be agile and adaptive as those things change? I think that's a really important thing that you touched on. What are some of the common mistakes that you see business owners make when it comes to digital marketing and to SEO? And how can people avoid those pitfalls?
So thank you, Dave. It's interesting because, well, the first thing goes back to know your customer and know how you want to speak to them. So that's the number one mistake, is people just rush in there. The second mistake that we see consistently is that people don't update. They don't maintain. And I think this is because, when I think of myself as a retailer, if I'm in a store, it's in my face. The moment I walk in to the moment I leave, every second I'm noticing things. If I'm a clothing retailer, I'm noticing, things that are messy, they got to clean up, right? We're always folding and refolding. If I'm a product, or it doesn't matter, right? If it's a service-based office, picture's crooked, or you look in there, it's 2024 and we still have these awards from 2012, right? And you're like, why is it up there? But it's because we're in there all the time. And I think what I see as a mistake, at least, is people don't maintain their sites or their digital presence and their social media because it's not in their face all the time. And that
Yeah.
really, we should be changing and updating all the material. It doesn't take much at all. It doesn't. That's number one. The second mistake we see is that they don't install some very important capabilities and metrics to manage their website. So they have what's called Google Analytics. Some of you may know it. Most of your listeners will know it. Some may not. But Google Analytics is the tie-in to see who's going to my website for how long, like all those analytics, right? And we see people not install them, right? Or we see them give it up to their web developer, which is the worst thing in the world. They give up admin rights, and then if it's an individual and they leave, they've lost control. So let me give you the example what I just shared. The website analytics, like somebody in a restaurant not having a POS system. There's no analytics. All they can do is collect money. When you want to know your table turns, your average ticket, all those, right? So all the material, like where people are coming, they give that up. So what can they do? What can they do to make sure those things don't be mentioned? Like, what are the things they shouldn't be doing? Well, number one, they should install Google Analytics right away. And if they don't know how to do it, we can help them with it. Number two, they should never give up their admin rights to the web developer. Number three, they should be looking at their analytics consistently so they can see when they do a marketing event, or even if they go to like a chamber event. Let's say you held an event at the Irvine Chamber yesterday and they handed out 50 business cards. Wouldn't it be nice for them to go to their website in a couple days and say, oh, wow, I saw Spike. I went to Dave's event, the chamber, and guess what? People went and saw my presence. That's pretty cool tracking. So that's the other thing they can do. And then the tidbit that most people don't realize, Dave, this is kind of a nice tidbit that one of our colleagues found, and we started training on it. It's called Microsoft Clarity. Microsoft Clarity. And I know that you've heard that term because we've done a training session with you, but most people still don't. And this is an amazing new tool. It's free. You install it in about a month, and what it does is it actually allows you to see you actually see a video of how users are navigating your site. So it can uncover areas where like maybe a link is broken or people stop going here. It's amazing. And so that's another thing they can do to help with those analytics and make sure that they're tracking.
So there's so many tools, there's so much data. And I think the takeaway here is, how do you use those data to then help you refine? And really it means that we have to spend time working on those aspects of our marketing. So I think it's easy to overlook that. Actually, I will confess, I gave up my admin rights to the person who manages my site for my business. I'm feeling guilty. This is my confession, Roger. But no, okay. I'm here to learn. I'm
Yep.
learning. This is really helpful. So one thing that I know for a fact, and I will say that this is something I often think, but a lot of people think that content is kind of the foundation for digital marketing. What types of content should small businesses focus on, and how can they make it work effectively for their SEO?
Yeah, Dave. So that content, we hear content is king all the time, right? And it's like hard because you have to go to the website and you have to produce it. Of course, with AI, with ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and Perplexity, things have gotten a lot easier. And so I think I'll give kind of like the update of what we're seeing that's necessary. Or actually, there's the first thing we do, one of the things we recommend. You could take why it's so important to get your Google Analytics. You can take a website or the analytics from website, and you can identify the buyer persona based on that, which is really cool. Okay. Now, You do two things after that. Number one, you verify, does that buyer persona that you're speaking to online match what you think is in your head? We got to make sure those are aligned first. That's the first thing. And if they're not, we align them. If they are, great. We don't have to worry about it, right? We're good. Now we create content around that, and we leverage it on our social media, and we leverage it on our social on our website, and possibly via email. And the key to this, the ideal scenario, and I know time constraints, Dave, you and I both know we have time constraints, but the ideal scenario is that we're using those different tools, the way that we can use social media against our website. We don't have the same content. We adjust it. We could, we change it up so it talks properly to that audience. Every word online matters, because unlike you and I having this discussion right now, we're in a store, we don't get to interact that way. It's a one-way interaction. I'm going to see it. I'm going to determine if I want to buy from you. I want to engage with you, right? So that's what they need. That's why content is so critical, because as humans, we unknowingly are making a judgment, because again, it's not a, so we may not even know that a word isn't the perfect word, and we can't pull that word back, right? So using those analytics and using AI, we can now adjust the content to the platform. And that's critical. The next thing is so imperative, and I don't remember the exact statistics. It's remarkably high. The use of video. You really need to be considering using video to be able to get your message across. And in that video, you want to, again, make sure that the persona matches the video. The words that your persona match in the video, and then you're utilizing it in different areas. Again, content is king. Dave, you brought up a very good point. It doesn't take as long, but it still takes time. It takes time to finish these things.
Yeah. Part of the way that lands on me is that, so this whole idea of content based on the persona, so the customer who we're actually focusing on, we're sort of taking an old concept and using new tools to remind us that we always focus on the customer, who they are, what they value, and what that persona looks like. I think that's a really valuable message. I think that what I know, certainly from my consulting work, is that when you lose sight of who you work for, who your customer is,
Yeah.
it's so easy to veer off. And I can see that in the digital world, that you could go so far off track with stuff that's interesting but not relevant.
Well, I think it has to do with human nature, right? Like without the internet, if we're in a real environment, we are seeing who we're working with. We know who we're working with,
Right.
and right. And so, if I'm if I'm an accountant, let's say, most likely I'm going to do business. If I'm a sole practitioner, right, sole business owner, I'm going to do business with people that want to do business with me, because I'm one-on-one. And so I'm seeing that. So I already know who my buyer persona is, even if I don't pick up on it. 45 to 55-year-old male is an example, right? Because I'm male and that's my age category. But in online, I don't have that ability. We don't know, which is why content is so critical and why using those analytics are so critical, to your point. And we can lose sight of who our customer is, which is why it's important to bring it back to what you just mentioned. Just know you know your customer. Know your customer. Don't get lost in the online world.
Sure. So how do social media platforms tie into digital marketing and our strategy there?
Sure. Well, so when you look at your main two, right, which is still Meta. Meta is Facebook and Instagram, right? And you still have some of your other ones, your YouTube Shorts, you've got your TikTok, you've got those other areas. The engagement of each one is a different opportunity to be able to still message. So think of, when you look at the website as part of digital marketing, let's go back to our store. That website is our store, right? It's either a storefront with an office, or it's actually a sale opportunity where I'm going to buy product, but it's a store, right? It's there. But then you have all those other things we talked about, and that's what social media is. Social media is basically the ability to go out. I mean, it's a really interesting analogy. I have a store, let's say, and our professional services, I belong to your chamber. I go to your networking event, right? Your networking event is a social opportunity for me to talk. So if you think of a store, if we go to my analogy online, my store in this case is an online, I'm not selling products, it's services. And guess what Meta is? Guess what Facebook is? Facebook is your networking event online. It's not live, although it can be, but it's my ability to engage with people to try to bring them into my store and make a decision to purchase from me or to continuously purchase with me. And so that's, an interesting spin, but I think it's good for people to kind of think of it from that perspective. And now you leverage, just like I leverage networking events, or in different areas that I can go and meet people. I now leverage Meta, which would be Facebook and Instagram. I leverage YouTube Shorts and other social media platforms with rich content and the way that I engage my users. That's where my engagement occurs, because it doesn't happen at the website. It happens at those platforms. And now my content is short, quick, and it has to be perfect to the audience. And again, this is something we help with all the time.
So if we think about sort of the content strategy and the way we show up and the tools through which we show up, we're talking about social media as those tools. When should a business think about investing in paid online advertising? Because all those platforms have paid options.
Yeah.
When does that make sense? And when might it not make sense, Roger?
So so the first thing I would say is we go back to the basics, right? If you don't know who your customer is, don't pay for advertising. That's the first thing to do. Don't waste the lead because it's going to cost you hard money. So I would say right out of the gate, go into those basics. Number one. Number two, if I go to the analogy of the store, imagine my store is messy. I have signs. I got on the fan, there's dirt. The clothes on the walls are all messy. Am I gonna go and spend money to drive people to my store? I hope not, right? Because they're gonna come in and I don't want to shop here. Why would I want to shop here? It's messy. Your website has to look pristine. So I would say first, it doesn't take long. Make sure that your online presence, your digital presence represents what you want. It's clean. The pictures are pristine. You look at them. And Dave, one of the most important things, it has to load fast on a mobile phone.
Right.
One thing that I tell everybody is pick your competitor, go on your phone, see how fast it takes to load up their site, and then go do yours. Don't do speed tests. You can find speed tests. Do the realistic simulation. So you make sure it's pristine. You make sure the speed loads are good. It's what you want. And then get your base free stuff out of the way first. Let's get yourself optimized because it doesn't cost anything. Make sure your listings, your Yelps, and all those things that are free are perfect. Then, which could take a month, it could take 60 days, could take a day. But at that point, that's when you can consider doing some paid advertising. Okay, now the beauty of the paid advertising, whether it's on social media like Facebook or Google Ads, you could really dip your toe in the water. It doesn't cost. It's not like you remember your Yellow Page ad example. Remember that was a fantastic. They were not cheap, right? They weren't. They were expensive, and once it's in there, it's there for the year,
Right.
right? That's a great analogy, Dave, that you just brought up. The beauty of this thing is you could test out a short, $10-20 and see what happens with leads in some cases and mix up your message. And there's tools that's an area we can help with as well. But that's what I would say is when you should be ready to start advertising after the baseline is ready and the organic is good.
So get the house in order first, and then think about possibility of paid advertising. Most small businesses don't have big advertising budgets, big marketing budgets. So what are some cost-effective digital marketing and SEO strategies that folks can implement right away?
So certainly using Google Ads and testing out Google Ads, you could do Google Ads for $300. The days of thousands are not there, and you could test it out. There's a term that maybe your audience knows, maybe they don't. It's called A/B testing, and that's basically I'm going to try it ad A, I'm going to try ad B, and see what creates leads and which leads convert better. So, I would say that kind of just that dipping their toes in the water of Google Ads is probably the easiest one to go after. The other area is Yelp has a paid version. Facebook has a paid version, but I really like to start. I really think Google Ads is the right way to start. I think it's easiest. It's, they have a lot of times they have $500 free credits if you've never advertised with them, or amount of free credits to try them out. So you could dip your toe in the water as well and see how it goes, start to convert those leads, and then see how they go.
Love the idea of free credits.
Yes.
So we're coming down the home stretch, and last question that I have for you this time is if you could leave our listeners with just one key piece of advice for succeeding in digital marketing and SEO, what would it be? Just one thing.
Make sure your website, and you make sure it loads fast for people. That is the number one drop off when people are like, nobody wants to wait. Make sure the speed is fast on your site.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, I know our audience can relate. You click onto it on your phone and it's taking like 5 seconds and you're saying, nope,
Done.
I'm not going to wait for 7.
That's right. I'm not. That's the world we live in. And so what I like to say, Dave, along those lines as we wrap up is imagine the 3-second rule. Try to see what happens when you're like, imagine you're in a stop sign and you're waiting for cars to go and you're trying to load a website. It better load before you're ready to go. It has to be that quick. So that's what I would leave here, your users. And again, we can help with that.
Yeah. So the legal disclosure for our podcast here is we are not encouraging anyone to use their phone at a stoplight to see how fast they can load a website. We just want to put it out there.
Pretend that you're at a site. Yeah, stop site. Pretend.
Hypothetical. Roger Lloyd, SBDC, thank you so much for being our guest today. Folks, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Dave. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for the Greater Irvine Chamber Business Insights podcast. To stay informed about upcoming podcasts and other important business news, please subscribe to our channel or check the Greater Irvine Chamber website.